Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather and work is the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. We have no approval of late items. If I can get a motion for the September 3rd agenda to be approved. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on the agenda tonight? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. Thank you. We have 3 delegations with us this evening, so we will just ask that each delegation take up to a maximum of 10 minutes, and we'll give you a little 1-minute warning when you're getting close, and questions may follow from the council table after that. So we have the Youth Climate Corps BC update on the successes of their program and impact on the community. We'll have Maddie, Maya, and Jesse just come up to the podium here. Welcome. Thank you for the update. And you'll just turn the mic on so that it's red. And if you don't mind, just introduce yourselves and then you'll have 10 minutes. Thank you.
So good afternoon, Mayor, Minions, and Council. My name's Maddie. I'm the program coordinator with the Youth Climate Corps here in the Comox Valley. First off, we just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak before you today. Today, I'm joined with one of our climate action mobilizers, Jesse. There we go. So just a little bit about us. We're part of a province-wide initiative along with teams from Northern Vancouver Island, Squamish, Vernon, Hazelton, and Kelowna. YCC pays youth a living wage to support community climate action projects and increase local capacity while setting young people up with tools needed for successful careers in the climate action sector. We're in the final months of our first season here in the Comox Valley and are here today to share an overview of the team's contributions to the community so far this summer. We will specifically focus on projects related to urban agriculture and ecological restoration, and highlight why having a team of young people dedicated to climate action matters so much here in the Comox Valley. So one of the main project areas that our team has been focusing on this summer is urban agriculture and increasing local food security. We've been working very closely with Lush Valley in their urban community gardens, as well as with local farm partners across the valley, and leading fruit picks with volunteers on private property. This partnership has expanded Lush's staff capacity in the summer months to allow for increased project activity and also allow for our climate action mobilizers to get a bit of experience in urban agriculture and food security. And similarly, we've also been working a lot with the Lake Trail Community Education Center. And we've been working really hard on creating a reimagined garden space for community members and students of the school in a once underutilized space. And so following plants from seed to table has definitely been a highlight for me this summer. We planted vegetables in the early summer in one of our first weeks. And then last week we had the opportunity to harvest and cook it at a community meal. And some students and family from the school were there as well. Another area that we focused on is ecosystem restoration. So through our partnership with Project Watershed, we've participated in replacing invasive species with native plants at the Courtney Air Park and the Kuskoosum sites. This work has turned 2 extremely degraded areas into thriving functional ecosystems that now provide habitat for many species, as well as, ecosystem services like flood control, water filtration, and erosion protection. We're also monitoring local stream health with Project Watershed and other streamkeeper groups to establish a stream health baseline and support data-driven decision-making in our local watersheds.
Hello, everyone. I am Mikasa. I am the project lead for the Youth Climate Corps BC in Courtney. We've also been doing weekly monitoring at the BC Parks Foundation Morrison Creek Headwaters site. Here we've deployed trail cameras and audio recording units, and we've tracked the biodiversity of plants and invertebrates in the site. We've also mapped the invasive species distribution throughout the site to inform future removal projects. And this has been really successful. We actually did a little pilot program and we managed to remove 270 kilograms of broom in a single morning at the site using the information that we gathered. This slide shows some of the other quantitative impacts that we've had as well. We've actually picked a lot more produce than is on the slide, but we only have updated numbers from July 18th. And we have partnered with 12 community organizations. A big part of our impact has of course also been on the youth that we employ. So I'll let Jesse speak to his own experience around that.
Awesome, yeah. As a young person who came to Youth Climate Corps, not just to do good work in my community, but also to gain experiences and make myself more employable, I think it's super important that we've had the opportunity to work with so many organizations and then from this learn a bunch of different skills. The relationships that we're forming with the people with these partners aren't just useful now, but could serve to prove us well beyond our time with YCC. Being able to work on complex tasks, come up with ideas, and just be more involved when it comes to early on in the project design phase, related to our outreach strategies or projects that we're working on with the city of Courtenay has been super valuable for me as someone who wants to continue to work in project development and management as I continue in my career. I'm very thankful for everything that YCC has done in providing this opportunity for me and also really tailoring this experience to each of our individual needs. The commitment they've shown to making sure that we're getting the most out of our time here has been really incredible. And I'm, like I said, can't be more thankful.
After all that we have achieved this year, we want to present an idea of what YCCBC could look like if we were given the opportunity to run our program again next year. Virtually all of our community programs have expressed interest in continuing to work with YCCBC in the future, and we continue to receive more requests all the time for support from other local organizations. And we either are doing what we can with them or just keeping note of those requests for next year. We've also started a number of new projects that we would love to continue past this season, including our local climate action book club, which had its first meeting last night and was super fun. And we also are providing an invasives removal service, which targets homes that have invasives spreading into municipal parks, and we offer to remove those invasives for free. In order to carry on this work, we rely on the ongoing support of our local governments, and we are excited to continue working with them in the coming seasons. Our work has contributed to a more climate resilient community across municipal boundaries, and we are excited to continue this work and bring new projects to life per the needs and ideas of all local governments. We look forward to reaching even more of the community, deepening our impact and inspiring the kind of cultural and environmental shifts we need for a more sustainable future. Thank you again for letting us speak and for considering how we can work together to strengthen our communities and support our youth in building climate action skills that will help them find meaningful employment. We look forward to any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction to the Youth Climate Corps. I think it's a new delegation for the town of Comox. Just two quick questions, then I'll go around to council. How long was the program or season this year? And the second question is, who were your kind of biggest first or second like funding to get the first year?
So our program started at the end of May and it was scheduled to finish actually next week, but we managed to get it extended. So we'll be running until October 17th now. And we basically just have two funders. So about half of our funding came from the city of Courtenay and the other half came from YCCBC, which is funded through lots of different provincial grants and donations.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council around the table? Okay, thank you so much, Maddie, Maya, and Jesse for coming. Okay, so I'm just going back to the agenda here. Have the second delegation with us this evening. We have Tanya from Tourism Development, the Tourism Development Specialist, and her team. Welcome, Callum, and I apologize. If you'd like to begin, you have 10 minutes and we will likely have some questions after. Okay, great. Well, good afternoon through the mayor to the councillors. Thanks so much for having us here tonight. I'm the CDRD manager of community development and resilience, and I oversee our tourism service. My name is Lisa Kilpatrick. I won't say much else because we have a short amount of time, except for the fact that us as a team, we've been working for the last 18 months on the development of the strategy. And I'll turn it over to Callum and Tanya to get into the details.
Awesome, thank you. And I also just want to acknowledge that we are grateful to be here today on the traditional and unceded territory of the Comox First Nation. This clicker, oh, there it is. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 10-year tourism strategy plan. As Lisa mentioned, we've been working through this for the past 18 months approximately. It's a roadmap for sustainable tourism development, supporting economic growth and environmental and social well-being for the region. The draft framework that we will be going over today is going to lead and guide the work that we do through implementation and tactical plans over the next decade. The reference area is the same as the tourism service area, so the 3 municipalities as well as electoral areas A, B, and C, but not including Denman and Hornby Island. A number of engagements have gone on over the past 18 months. We established a tourism strategy steering committee and hosted a bunch of public engagement sessions throughout the last last 18 months. We have a virtual community engagement page where anyone from the public can go on and get information about the plan, as well as engagement opportunities, complete surveys, give their feedback, that kind of thing. We also hosted a local government staff and elected officials forum and conducted one-on-one interviews and focus group conversations. We also engaged with the Comox Economic Development Corporation and the CAOs from Courtenay, Comox, Cumberland, and Comox First Nation. And I'll pass it over to Callum.
Thank you, Tanya. So next I'll just run through at a high level some of the primary components of the plan and leave hopefully opportunity for some Q&A as well. So the vision that we developed through that 18-month engagement process is that the Comox Valley is a sustainable island destination that enriches the lives of residents now and for future generations. Environmental stewardship, culture, regional collaboration, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples create a resilient and thriving tourism network that is home to exceptional year-round experiences that tell the stories of the Comox Valley. And I think our focus area here was for it to be inspirational and aspirational, to focus on the opportunity for growth on a year-round basis, look at opportunities to deepen benefits for local residents and business people, and also ensure that we're protecting what makes the Comox Valley a really special place to live and to visit. We developed a set of guiding principles to kind of serve as the foundation of the plan: collaboration, reconciliation, harmony, resilience, openness. And I think one of the overriding themes here from a principle perspective is this idea of collaboration across the tourism industry and also more broadly. And I think one of the best parts of this planning process was having conversations with staff from regional district and communities that aren't typically engaged in tourism issues, organizations and nonprofits that weren't typically engaged, and saw so many opportunity for synergy and collaboration to move us forward over the long term. We have a set of strategic themes that kind of give the structure for the plan. So I'll run through each of these. You'll see that there's goals, objectives, as well as actions identified. Just for the sake of brevity today, I won't be focusing on any of the actions, but I'll draw out a couple of one action for each, just as a kind of example for you all. So starting with working together, and I should say that these themes are in no particular order of priority or anything like that. For working together, we have strengthened collaborative partnerships and engage with communities more frequently. I think that we know in tourism that it's really critical to engage and receive feedback from community and also from operators. And I think that in the past, we've done a really excellent job of getting feedback from operators, perhaps not so much from the broader community and other tourism organizations. That was a strength of this planning process and something that we want to continue with over the long term. One of the actions identified within this working together priority area is around the municipal and regional district tax. And we know that there's an opportunity to potentially expand the boundary area for the municipal regional district tax to include other communities aside from just the city of Courtenay, and to also increase that collection rate from 2% to 3%, which most communities in British Columbia are doing. And ultimately, what that would allow Experience Comox Valley to do is to focus on more than just promotion and operating the visitor center. We can, a lot of the other actions identified within this plan around supporting operators and business owners, supporting investment attraction, and can be made possible through expanding the MRDT and the funding available. Next, we have strengthening the stewardship of place. Goals being that residents and visitors are educated and engaged and participating in shaping the landscape and the tourism landscape more broadly for the Comox Valley, implementing responsible and regenerative tourism actions that help to create conditions for the region's biodiversity to thrive for future generations. During our market research component, we saw loud and clear that the natural beauty of the Comox Valley was really a predominant driver of visitation here, and ensuring that we protect those special places, I think, is really critical to the long-term future of tourism in the area. One example of an action that we heard from operators was that Experience Comox Valley can do more to support operator training and programs to support operator investment. That could be relating to, for example, some operators expressed interest in sustainability related initiatives to help them guide their operations, whereas other operators are looking for support to help them expand their business. Next, we have empower a resilient and inclusive tourism economy. The goals for this one continue to support a strong year-round tourism economy that attracts sustainable investment in local jobs, position tourism businesses and organizations as vital contributors to the region's economy, support inclusive and accessible communities by empowering tourism businesses to uplift and lead with care. And I think for me, this theme is really focused on the opportunity that we do have for growth in the Comox Valley. And, we're not a community that's facing, any severe over tourism type challenges. There's room for growth. There's room for more jobs here. Sure, we heard through the process about certain special places at certain times of the year that might be too busy, and we can work to mitigate and address that over time. But we know that there's capacity and an opportunity for a lot of investment and business growth across our communities in the Comox Valley, and the objectives around this pillar here as well. Next, we have supporting connected communities in tourism infrastructure. Supporting a sustainable, seamless transportation network. We heard a lot about how transportation infrastructure within the Comox Valley and transportation services can be enhanced, whether that's public transportation or active transportation. And we also heard about the need for continued investment in tourism infrastructure. And I think one of the priorities that we're looking at along those lines is what sort of investments from a tourism perspective are also going to bring really clear, tangible benefits to residents. Really just diving into that idea that a great place to live is a great place to visit. And, for example, one area when it comes to tourism investment that we heard in many communities is the need for more accommodation. It came up this afternoon, the opportunity for that here in this community. And, I think anyone who's had family come to stay has seen the challenges of finding, hotel occupancy is so limited here. And that's one of the clear areas where there's room for growth and room for more business. And last but not least, enhance year-round experiences for everybody. And the focus here is really to continue to support the growth of vibrant and sustainable communities that are great places to live and visit, and providing exceptional, unique year-round experiences. I think the Comox Valley is really the envy of a lot of communities in British Columbia when it comes to the kind of summer and winter product that's available. And I think that we can do more to support those kind of shoulder seasons where hotel capacity and occupancy drops down a little bit. But we know as community members that there's amazing spring and fall and winter activities that we can build out and work with operators on that. And the focus there is really offering more year-round employment opportunities and business development and growth as a result. And lastly, here are some of the next steps associated with the process. A few of these have already been actioned since we started our round of presentations to the regional district and communities. So we are currently getting feedback from the public through a series of public open houses. Had a really successful one this afternoon down at the marina. We also have online engagement continuing on the Engage Comox Valley website, as well as some survey work happening, and that's set to close on September 8th. We will then be taking kind of all that feedback that we hear, finalizing the framework and taking it to the project steering committee that's been involved in this for 18 or 19 months to receive their final endorsement. We'll then present this draft plan to the board for approval this fall. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on is that, as you've no doubt seen, it is a fairly high level strategy. And the reason for that is that it fits into the upcoming municipal and regional district tax renewal process. So we need to start that process essentially now. We've got the ball rolling on it already. And the goal here is that this 10-year plan will provide that higher level sort of foundation for the direction that we want to go. And the MRDT plan is where we'll get really tactical, where we'll be creating a 5-year plan for the first half of actioning this framework. We'll also be creating a 1-year tactical plan, which identifies which specific projects we're going to take on, budgetary commitments, etc. And we'll be forced through that MRDT policy to be updating that tactical plan every year. And then at the end of our 5-year term, we'll then do another 5-year plan where we can kind of reassess where this framework is at and what priorities we want to carry forward into the kind of final 5-year window of this planning process. So that's everything we have for you, but would be really happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Lisa, Callum, and Tanya. I'm pretty sure we'll have some questions. Just on the MRDT, how it applies to Comox, is it 51% need to opt in? So we would have to have 3 established hotels. Is that where Comox would kind of get queued in to be in a vote, just to clarify?
Yeah, so ultimately we would require 51% of accommodation properties in the designated area to vote in favor. So the approach that we're moving forward with right now is there would be kind of one boundary area that would be the regional district with the exception of Hornby and Denman. So we would, from a legislative perspective, need to have 51% of the accommodation properties in that entire geographic area, representing at least 51% of properties in order to move forward with it. But we are taking an approach where, whether it's on a kind of incorporated community basis or an electoral area basis, that we are looking to have a threshold of support on that more local level as well. So as we go through that process, we can see how much support we're getting from, operators in Comox, for example. And if we feel that that level isn't high enough to move forward, then we can kind of cross that bridge together when we get there.
Thank you for clarifying. I wasn't sure if it was per door or how that worked in general. So thank you. Questions from council around the table. We have Councillor Swift and then Councillor Hazlitt. Thank you.
For the MRDT, is it only applicable to hotels or are you branching out into other accommodation?
So legislatively, MRDT is only applied to fixed roof properties. So campgrounds, for example, don't count. And so there's no way for us to include campgrounds. So ultimately what would be included in MRDT, we have one pool that is, we kind of call general MRDT. So that's your more traditional hotels, bed and breakfast, or hotels, motels, inns, etc. And then we have a second category called online accommodation platforms. So that includes like any Airbnb short-term listed properties. So those would be the 2 kind of collection sources. Yeah, the formal properties as well as short-term rentals.
And so the taxing of the short-term rentals, is that new?
The taxing of short-term rentals was introduced in the 2018 budget provincially. And it's kind of all automated in the back end. So if you're operating an Airbnb, you don't have to deal with the bookkeeping of remitting 2 or 3%. It's taken care of by Airbnb or HomeAway or VRBO or whatever platform you're using.
And so if you are operating an Airbnb, for instance, how would you get involved in either approving or disapproving the tax?
Great question. So we will be hosting a series of kind of public engagement opportunities around the MRDT process. And that's where we're looking to get kind of input and support from all operators within the tourism industry. When it comes to the actual votes in favor of MRDT, it's only the more formal hotels that get to vote in favor. You have to have 4 rooms or more. So there's the odd occasion where perhaps there's you know, a individual that might own 4 properties that are all on Airbnb, they would get a vote in that case, but the average Airbnb operator wouldn't get a vote. But we would certainly want to involve them through the process. We also have a B&B spot on the Tourism Advisory Committee to kind of hear the perspective of those operators as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hazlitt.
Thanks very much. You'd mentioned you had been doing some work with some nonprofits to enrich tourism. Can you give us an idea on who some of those groups were and kind of what examples you have on how that would enrich tourism?
Yeah, for sure. So through the planning process, we had chambers and BIAs and arts and culture organizations.
The Filbert Heritage Lodge Association was also on our tourism strategy steering committee, and the U-Rock, for example, and the
Whitewater
community
paddling
forest.
groups.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots involved in the engagement process. When it comes to the actual actions of the plan as well, we specifically identify opportunities around working more closely with chambers and BIAs. I think one example when it comes to visitor servicing, we've been operating down at the marina previously. Now we've got a mobile location along the trolley line. We have had questions about dine around events and festivals and events in general. And I think more closer collaboration and also investment from MRDT into those sorts of events, especially where it contributes to shoulder season reasons for people to come and stay and spend money in the community.
Thank you very much. And then
Councillor Grant, did you have a question? Councillor Hazlitt.
I'm just curious on what a 5-year plan and commitment kind of cost would be for this kind of board. You mentioned a few different stages and a few different studies kind of along the way. I'm just kind of interested in what dollar value attached to something like that would be.
Yeah, for the actual like consulting work associated with that. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, it is absorbed in what we're paying. So
So I think we, just in terms of, for our strategies, we have an annual, management fee that we pay through the tourist service of 50,000. And because of the partnership that we have, they're doing that work for us.
Okay, we'll go over to Councillor Grant.
I'm just wondering a little bit more on the MRDT. So who actually decides how the MRDT gets spent? Right, I believe it's the hoteliers, but I'm not sure.
yeah, so from a legislative perspective, it is the hoteliers that actually sign on a piece of paper, and we require that 51% threshold. We will also, in the case of this planning process, require letters of support or resolutions from each one of the incorporated communities, as well as from the regional district. So there's a couple of additional layers built into that. And then we also have to demonstrate the engagement that has occurred through the planning process, and specifically identify other types of operators, community groups, and organizations that have been involved. So I think that generally the focus is trying to build consensus with with the communities involved and the various types of operators involved. But ultimately it is the hoteliers that we can't get around that signature process that's legislatively required. But I think it's fair to say that a best practices approach that we always strive for is to build consensus so that when it comes to the actual decision-making time and having the letter of support and the request to levy the tax that will come from the regional district, that there's a really clear sense that we have reached consensus and there's broad support for what's built into that MRDT plan.
Yeah, I'll just,
Clarification is, are you talking on an annual basis? Who makes the decision on the budget?
Well, there was always a board and it was always the hoteliers, and they would decide how they were going to spend the money. And that was a very contentious board, I have to tell you, like none you've probably ever seen before. And so it's, I know it sounds like a great idea, and I hope that you can make it work, but it's a very tough journey that you're going on. I can tell you down here.
Do you want to talk about how the governance works right now?
Yeah, I can elaborate on like our annual process for creating an MRDT tactical plan. I put out a survey, so an industry survey where we and ask people, business owners, managers, general, like whoever is involved in tourism related businesses, to provide input on what they think should be our priority focus areas, how satisfied they are with our current marketing initiatives, and what worked, maybe what they think didn't work, if there are any gaps. And then I take that survey feedback and I bring it to the Tourism Advisory Committee. So that's the committee that has been guiding the work that Experience Comox Valley does since 2022. And it's the Tourism Advisory Committee. It's that level where we brainstorm ideas, where we build out a draft plan, as well as a draft budget. So based on our recommendations on the ideas that industry came up with, or that the Tourism Advisory Committee came up with, we provide recommended budgets for each of those line items, which the advisory committee then again reviews. And of course, right now, since MRDT comes out of the city of Courtenay, it then goes to the city of Courtenay for final approval before it's submitted to the province.
So what happens if you get a community like, say, Comox, that we have one hotel and they're not interested? Because typically they have not been interested. So what happens then?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, the focus from like a project plan perspective from me and my team is to go and meet with that operator, spend time with them, explain how the MRDT program works, the sort of investments that could be made through that. And ultimately, it'll be up to that operator to decide whether that's a fit for them or not. Well, then when it comes time to get support from council for MRDT, I think you'll all have to weigh the pros and cons and the perspectives of that operator, and whether you're supportive of MRDT coming into effect in the community or not. And then when it comes to new operators, if MRDT is in place, then they would automatically be brought into the fold. I work with quite a lot of hotel developers, and MRDT is predominantly seen as a massive positive when they're looking at their investment plan. And if there isn't MRDT in place, it's seen as a very clear negative, because MRDT is ultimately money collected by visitors to promote the community and help build business. And when we look around the province, the majority of communities have MRDT, and it's because the benefits are so clear, and the downsides of MRDT are very, very difficult to find.
Can I ask one more? Am I allowed? I'm just wondering about Mount Washington too. I understand that they have their own MRDT that they're working on, and so if they're not in, then how does that affect all of this as well?
Yeah, so we've had some really productive conversations with Tourism Mount Washington, and without speaking for them, I think that it's fair to say that there's an openness for Mount Washington to join a more regional approach. And essentially, I think their perspective is that we having a Tourism Mount Washington website and then a broader regional website plus the resorts website, from a consumer perspective, it gets pretty muddled. Experience Comox Valley already invests quite a lot of money into promoting the winter season in Mount Washington. So there's definitely an openness to collaborating. And I think ultimately what I would hope for as an outcome is that we're able to continue building trust with that group, and that they would ultimately repeal their MRDT the day before a new broader one starts. And that they would have a voice on the advisory committee, and that we'd be able to maintain investment levels to promote Mount Washington. And I think the benefit for them is a lot of reduced administrative requirements of having to, all of the reporting associated with MRDT and the renewals is a ton of work for a small volunteer group.
Just a quick question. This is obviously quite macro level framework principles based. Is there a part where it will go kind of into like, specific action items with YQQ Airport, with Town of Comox Marina, and kind of things that are very specific to our municipality? What does the timeline look like for those tangible action items?
Yeah, so I think generally the timeline is that dovetails into the MRDT process, and that that's where we'll have kind of the budget to be able to direct towards actually actioning initiatives. So our timeline when it comes to MRDT is to have it developed through this fall and early winter.
Okay. And if Comox is not in that process, then that will kind of maybe be considered in the regional, but not specific. like we won't have specific dollars towards that unless those hoteliers decide to put them towards a regional.
As well.
Well, so when we speak about there's two MRDT processes. So we're talking about the opportunity to expand regionally.
Yeah.
Any which way though, Courtney MRDT still needs to go through a new fund.
Okay.
So we will be moving through that with the service, with all participants of the service, with all the hoteliers in the region. Anyways, because that's basically contributing their full MRDT that they're collecting to the regional service fund.
Okay, thank you. Any Councillor Swift?
Thank you. I'm just wanting some clarification. I know at one point there was some consideration of using some of that money for affordable housing to house workers and so on, and I'm wondering if that's still part of the plan.
So currently I talked a little bit about how there's the two pools of MRDT, one from the more formal hotels, the other from the short-term rentals. So the short-term rental one, which we call OAP, is currently the city of Courtney is directing that towards affordable housing initiatives. I think that ultimately the decision hasn't been made when it comes to this broader this new MRDT process. But I would suspect that if this area follows the kind of trend that we're seeing across the province, it would be that the short-term rental money goes towards affordable housing initiatives, and that the general MRDT collected from hotels, motels, etc., would be reserved exclusively for tourism initiatives.
Okay, do we have any further questions around the table? Okay, thank you, Lisa, Callum, and
Thank you.
Tanya for the presentation. Appreciate it. Our third delegation this evening is Rosemary Abram. You can maybe pronounce your name for me so I get that correct. Abram, to discuss town infill, building heights, and concrete emission. Welcome, and you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. So Comox has something to celebrate. On Thursday, August 21st, Premier EB made it official. We are not arm twisted to meet provincial housing targets. The change began in Ottawa with the federal government reducing their program numbers. Toronto's rental housing glut has hit the Globe and Mail already. And here in BC, the province has a new Minister of Housing. The fourth housing order from the province to the municipalities does target several cities. Using a formula, about 4% of the population of any given city gives us the target number for new houses in that area over a period of about 5 years. The province orders the city of Courtney to have 260 new housing starts annually. The town of Comox is required to have 0 new housing starts 2025 to 2030. It's all on the provincial website and announced in mass media August 21st. So Comox 0, even if Comox volunteers to trade free infrastructure grants from the province, the number of housing starts for Comox at that same formula would be about 120,000 starts per year. Do you know how many homes there are in Comox now? Yeah, so there's about, there's 7,000 or less, 6,600. So let's debunk the conspiracy theory that the province is blackmailing Comox to build high rises just so Comox can maintain its infrastructure budget, because that is a myth. And what we see is that 86% of your Comox population is quite content that high rises aren't the number one thing in Comox. And I appreciate that councillors are hearing that 86% of your population. the hundreds of people who attended your consultant's open house on the LCP, hundreds of your constituents, homeowners, investors, who wrote letters and posted on the town website. So of the few people, looks like about 4%, who think we should go high rise, and I will consider 1, 2 of their arguments. Then I'll describe some special features of apartment living, and I will end with a mathematical summary. So the first argument is the wild habitat argument, build up rather than out. And I've heard that as I've been canvassing. The argument, of course, for Comox is moot. Comox does not sprawl. It's an area of about 6.5 miles square. That's 17 square kilometers. The argument says we should protect out of town wilderness. Yes, and in town, the lives of sometimes wild human animals is hugely improved by having yards, gardens, and neighbors we know. We mustn't condemn humans to live in small cages as if that's a fair trade. Second argument is the concrete lovers argument, and I hear this all the time. It's not worth it to build anything less than 5 stories, 8 stories, 10 stories. You can keep on going. And why? Because we need to get profit out of the project, but we can avoid that concrete building math altogether. Simple. Don't build in concrete. Why? Because we see demonstration success by local contractors. Developers do not need more than 2 stories to make a profit. At a local building site, I recently saw quality of workmanship, industry, attention to safety, and a lineup of local company trucks. Mission Possible, BFR, Rock Solid, Phillips, Edgen, etc. These contractors are local. They are working and earning market wages. The homes are selling at market value. That's demonstration success. In the Comox Valley, excluding the airport, concrete is the most prevalent source of emissions across Canada. Concrete is right behind fossil fuel production for environmental degradation. Okay, it's time to make this move. That's the down arrow. There's the up arrow. Okay. You can help me there. Should be a picture of a building. That's it. So the engineer for this project said it took 8,450 cubic meters of reinforced concrete. And what did they get out of it? 88 parking stalls and 40 apartments. Let's carry on to the next slide. No. Okay. In a calculator online, anyone can punch in the numbers and see that 8,000 cubic meters of concrete will give us 5,000 tons of CO2 emissions. Is it worth it to build 6-story apartments in concrete? No, it's not. Okay, the next photo is about my third topic, apartment style living. Not the fire, it's just a. Alrighty. All right, you recently heard from the RCMP and you were given a report. And I'd like to highlight a couple of pages in that report, because when we map out the RCMP incidents, we are moving from one apartment hotspot to another apartment hotspot when it comes to traffic incidents. When we are talking about violent crime, the location for that violent crime, top of the list Information provided by the RCMP, apartment buildings, number one on top of that list. All right, let's enjoy this.
You
with
have
the
2
fire.
minutes, Rosemary.
Courtney apartment fire causes early morning building evacuation. So one fire causes how many households to be evacuated in the wee hours of the morning? Is this the lifestyle we want for Comox citizens? Okay, finally, the math. The BC assessment estimates a 6-story apartment block to be worth about 60 million. Scrap that, put in 60 to 80 low-rise timber frame homes, and you'll have the same $60 million property value. There's your math. Low service costs, less traffic, less crime, less fire hazard, and similar property tax revenue. And low rise is green housing. It's environmentally preferable to 2-level underground concrete parkades that are parts of a 6-story apartment building. None of the 86% of homeowners I canvassed wanted over 4 stories in homes. You can throw that net a little wider and capture an additional 6%. Said, yeah, 5 stories, 6 stories, where they are carefully placed so they are not livable with their neighbors. We can live with that. But none wants the density and traffic associated with hundreds of units, not homes, units. I trust you who represent these neighbors will consider their vision for a beautiful, vibrant, wealthy town. Oh, look at that, we do have information. I have been asked by residents, why would town staff ever advocate putting a greater burden on existing infrastructure? Why would town staff advocate that? You see, we as your folks out here, we don't want to lose confidence in town staff. They should be our steadfast allies in sustaining the existing infrastructure.
You have 30 seconds, Rosemary.
Empires. As homeowners, we plan, we budget, we live in a sustainable cycle. And I know it's your goal to attempt to do that as well. So thank you. We can ask 2 final points. We ask you to put 6 stories rezoning on pause. There's no provincial bogeyman hiding in the dark. He's been called out. Please ask the province for an extension to reporting on the OCP. Seems there's more work to be done. That's how best to keep the charm of homes. Thank you so much for hearing me out. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to pull off the visuals that went along with it, but I do appreciate your time.
I apologize about the technology. And do we have any questions around the table for Rosemary? Okay, thank you for your presentation. Councillor Blacklock, do you mind turning the mic off there for me? Thank you so much. Okay, so that is our delegations for this evening. We are moving on to page 7, adoption of the regular council meeting minutes for Wednesday, August 13th. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's passed unanimously. There's no committee meeting minutes. Consent agenda on page 15. I'll get a motion to move items 1 through 4.
Move. Sorry.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of receipt of the consent agenda? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Are there any items number 1 through 4 that councillors would like to pull out? We'll go Councillor Grant and you'll need a
Number
seconder.
1, please.
Number 1, request for a RAP bylaw that's been moved and seconded. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is pertaining to roughly one house in Comox. It's quite a story that goes along with this house, but at the end of the day, they do have a big rat problem in the backyard that needs to be addressed. So I'm just wondering if staff could tell me what we've done. I know I brought this complaint to town, and I just wondered what we were doing with it and if there's any way to solve this.
I will go over to Deputy Corporate Officer Russworm.
Sure. So rats are challenging to regulate because they're mobile and they're difficult to quantify. So it's really difficult to come up with a rat bylaw that regulates or prohibits rats. But staff have been putting some thought into how to beef up our property maintenance bylaw to regulate attractants. So things like compost, backyard composts, we can put provisions in the property maintenance bylaw that will require homeowners to manage compost piles properly. Or fruit trees. If you have fruit trees, just ensure that there's no overripe fruit falling on the ground. Pick your fruit, don't eat your fruit. And in that way, we can prevent any attractants. They're more measurable, they're more quantifiable, they're not mobile. So we have been putting some thought into putting some language into an updated property.
Yeah, in this case, the front of the house actually looks quite nice because one of the neighbors goes and cuts the front lawn, but it's been abandoned for several years now. And it's the fruit trees. And honestly, I went over there and the rats are just crawling through the trees. It's gross, actually. And so I don't know if we can step that up a little bit and get some action on that. But, all of those things aren't going to work in this case. So anyway. There you go.
Okay, any more comments on that or potentially some offline follow-up?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, some follow-up would be good to just I think it's one of these things where we need to get a handle on this one. So
Have to see it in person to feel the severity of it. I just want to quickly pull out number 2, the letter from Mark Rutten for Comox Valley Regional District. They are currently updating the solid waste management plan. I'm just going to that page, and they had about 33 action items that were getting reviewed in the next month and a half. And they were wondering if municipalities had any interest in a delegation and to weigh in. Did you second it? Just realized. Okay, thank you. So just checking if we want, I think it would probably be prudent to have an update in early October of just 10 minutes on what those proposed action items are. And I also just wanted to point out they are in our community for the public September 20th and 21st. So anyone opposed to getting a delegation on that solid waste management updated plan? Anyone on that board have any comments on whether council should receive that delegation? Okay, do we need a motion to have them come as a delegation, or can we just pass it along to have them come? Perfect. Okay, that was number 2. Any other items from 1 through 4? Okay, so we are moving on to unfinished business. We have 3 items from our previous meeting. The first item is from Habitat for Humanity on 2161 Park Drive. They came as a delegation to discuss 2161 Park Drive, and some diagrams have been sent out earlier this week from their last presentation about an 8-unit small-scale housing development. I have Councillor Hazlett's hand is up.
I would move that we move this to our next regular council meeting where we will have a staff report on available land that we could potentially use on it.
second.
Okay, that motion has been moved and seconded. Just a question for Shelley. Out of process for me here. What day is that report supposed to be coming? Is that coming September 10th or our first meeting in October there on the 1st? Any update on date?
Be the first meeting on.
Okay, so it's likely that October 1st date. Okay, so for consideration of the motion on the floor, it's coming in 4 weeks. I personally am going to vote against the motion. I think I'm very aware of what lands we have, and I would really like to see that Habitat for Humanity project work, and I think it works in that location. So I would like to see some movement sooner. Any other comments on Councillor Hazlett's motion to move this to October 1st? Councillor Mayer?
I'm totally in favor of moving this forward in the location, but I'm also okay to wait in case there's some alternatives. I don't expect that there will be. So I'm okay to wait, but I also support this location.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So the motion on the floor is to wait till the October 1st likely report date of available lands in general. I think we have Councillor Kerr and then Councillor Grant.
Just a question. So I understand Councillor Hazlett's motion. If like, how will the information about more land determine our opinion on this property? This is an isolated property. The proposal from Habitat for Humanity sounds really reasonable. Schematics look good. So just curious, like if we have lots of land or not much land or whatever else land we have, this specific project makes a lot of sense to me. So just curious.
I agree the project makes sense. It's a park. We just had somebody come and we paid them a whole bunch of money to tell us we don't have enough parks. So if in a month staff comes back and says we've got land that isn't a park that you could make this project work on, I'd prefer to see it go there than pull out a park and put some houses into it. And that's the only reason I want to see this pushed.
Okay, Councillor Grant.
Yeah, and as I said last week, I'm totally opposed to this. I like Habitat. I think what they do is great. I think their location they picked stinks. And we have a park there, and everybody that's lived in that neighborhood has thought that was a park. I actually talked to the developer that developed that back in the 60s, and they actually had houses to put on that lot, and Helen Dale at the time told them, no, you have to make that a park. So it's been a park since day one, and to start giving our parks away to put housing on, I think is just wrong. And I think it just sets a really bad message, and I think it's a really horrible place to do this. So I would vote for this motion, but I would vote against this when it comes up.
We're going to go over to Councillor Blacklock.
As I mentioned last time we discussed this issue, I am going to abstain from discussion and voting in this matter due to a conflict of interest.
I believe if you're abstaining, you need to remove yourself.
I'm now removing myself at request of the mayor. Please come get me when you are done discussing this issue.
More by policy, but. Thank you. And that's for personal HR. Okay. So back to the discussion. I go over to Councillor Swift, and I do believe staff had said last time in the OCP it was designated as future housing, but currently a park. So it has been a discussion for housing in past. It's just current zoning is park. Councillor Swift.
Well, I guess I would speak to delaying this motion or delaying the decision till October so that we have all the information. I like the Habitat project, but I would prefer that it be elsewhere than in a park. Having said that, it's not a very interesting park, and if we're going to keep it as a park, I think we should throw some money at it to make it look more inviting. So I would prefer to wait till the October meeting and we have all the information.
Thanks. Good discussion. And it's a good point that if it is a park, maybe it's a more appealing Parker housing. Okay. So it sounds like we were ready to vote for that. So the motion on the table is to move this forward until, I'm not going to put October 1st just in case, but until we have the land list available from staff. So all those in favor of having this discussion at that time when that list is available? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Can somebody go get Councillor Blacklock back, please? You guys are unruly tonight. Okay, just kidding. We're moving on to unfinished business B from Kim Hall from Indigenous Women Sharing Society. who presented to us the Comox Valley Substance Use Strategy Collaboration. There was a request there to consider a $10,000 multi-year contribution, which is outside of our current policy. So there doesn't have to be a motion, but just putting it to the floor if there are any comments or motions on B. Counselor Blacklock.
Well, seeing that I sit on the Comox Valley Substance Use Strategy Collaborative, I would be remiss if I didn't make a motion that we approve this request for $10,000 to the Comox Valley Substance Use Strategy. If you're not part of a solution when it comes to this issue, you are part of the problem. And I would rather Comox be a solution. I've learned a lot about these issues since I've been sitting on that collaborative. And I can tell you that the work they are doing is saving lives. Now, not everyone will agree in the method in which those lives are being saved, but they are. And it is making a difference. And I think at $10,000, it's a nominal amount of money to save someone's life. So I would put forward that motion and I'd ask for a second.
Second.
Great, that's been moved and seconded. And any comments or questions around the table? Counselor Mayer and then Counselor Grant, Counselor Mayer and then Counselor Kerr.
I would fully support this, and I just want to confirm with staff, I believe we still have maybe 50,000 unspent in our projects budget. That would, if it was unused, it would just go into, well, maybe you could talk about that and confirm if we have money remaining.
I can't confirm that at this time unless the Director of Finance can confirm that, but we can get back to you.
I think we'll continue questions, but it is something because we did move the Coalition End Homelessness funds, but I'm not sure that it actually got taken out of the total. So we're going to be really close to what we said as a policy. So maybe we'll leave it over and see if we can get back that number. If we need to make a motion based on what we know tonight, we can always do that. Counselor Kerr.
Yeah, I'm just going to thank Councilor Blacklock for the motion and for his eloquent words. And anytime I can vote in support and aligned with Councilor Blacklock, I will.
Happen every day.
Counselor Grant.
Yeah, so I'm just not really clear what we're doing here. So we've got a motion for a $10,000 grant, but we're not sure if we have the money. Are we going to put this off till the next meeting and we can confirm whether we have the cash or?
We're just seeing if it can be done, if we can get the motion. The motion is already on the floor. Staff is looking into it. So if they can get back to us shortly, we will pass it. If we can't get clarification, we can
Then
either
we
change the
can-
motion or wait.
Okay.
I might go through Corporate Officer Russworm over to Finance if it looks like there's an update. And if there's no update, feel free to say no update.
I was just reviewing that council has a policy that governs grants and aid, and that perhaps should be the policy that guides it, or could perhaps be amended.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we've given out funding outside of the organizations that are listed before, so I don't know that we have a clear way of doing that. Counselor Blacklock, being on that substance use board, do you know if we move this from 3 weeks from now, does that impact their bottom line in any way, shape, or form? Because we can change the motion to say that it comes out of the policy and we have special projects that it can come out of, but if it's not a rush, we can wait till October 1st. So any feedback on timing?
Oh, I mean, we can defeat the motion as written, and then as long as we're willing to bring back a next motion in October, that would more distinctly clarify where these funds would come from.
Would it make sense to defer this motion
Councillor
until
Grant.
October 1? That way you know it's coming back.
Yes, over to Corporate Officer Russrum. If we defer the motion, will it automatically come back on the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can defer it till October the 1st.
Correct.
And then, okay, so I'll move that we do that.
Can any counselor defer the motion, or does it have to be Counselor Blacklock?
Yeah, do we not have to defeat the motion because?
Any?
it's not on the
Okay,
floor right now?
so no, we can defer anytime. Okay, so Counselor Grant has deferred. Is there a seconder?
Second.
All those in favor of deferring this motion until October 1st? Okay, so that motion is deferred until our future meeting and we can figure out, we didn't actually vote on it, but we can deal with it then. The third item is to discuss Dana Forsgren's request to amend zoning for the extreme weather response. They came as a delegation to ask that we change our zoning in institutional zones to allow for faster activation during severe weather to improve access, funding, and protect vulnerable residents. There was specific locations that they were looking at. I believe it was 6 to 10 bed shelters, smaller size shelter in Comox for this upcoming winter. Staff has provided some possible options to council, and I'd like to move to get the discussion going that we look at the temporary use permits for a period of basically this upcoming winter for 6 months to see how working with the organization goes and have some control on what that looks like for this upcoming year.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so that's moved and seconded. So for discussion, again, there's the change the institutional zoning completely. There's the leave it where we don't have any zoning at all. And there's the option to get temporary use permits, which should get things moving quicker, but we have a little more, from what we can understand, control of what it looks like. And the time frame allows it to be 1 year versus multi-year. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I like the idea of the temporary use permit just because it gives us a chance to test it out, pilot it a little bit, and then if after a year or 2 or 3 we're happy with it, then we could always do more or just keep it temporary use. So good idea. Thanks.
Got the idea from other councillors. Thank you. Councillor Grant and then Hazlitt and then Mayor.
Thanks. So I don't have a real big problem with the temporary use permit, although I'd like to know more about it and I'd like to know how much control and power that gives us. You know, if things start to go horribly wrong there, how much power have we got to step in and do something, or I'm just not 100% sure how it all works. And I'd like to know more about how it works before I vote and say, let's do it. So I don't know if that's what your motion said tonight, was that if we do this, we're going to go ahead with this, because I'd like to have more discussion on that piece of it. And I think Jordan knows more about it than anybody.
Yeah, staff kind of sent out the details of what it looked like and that was the most controlled option. And also we have, we'll go over to Director Houle because he has his hands up so he can hopefully clarify.
Thank you, Your Worship. So currently under the current OCP, we don't have a temporary use permit regime. This is something we are looking at, which will be implemented towards the end of the year. So that would impact the ability for them to operate this winter. If in order to get a temporary use permit done in time, that it would be difficult. But under the Local Government Act, temporary use permits, you can specify conditions under which the temporary use may be carried on. So council could specify hours, number of beds, those kinds of things. And basically it's a substitute. It's for rezoning. So they could carry on the use for a temporary period of up to 3 years. It could be 1 year, it could be 2 years, it could be one winter, it could be from October to March, whatever council wishes. In terms of revoking it, I don't know. I don't know that. I would have to look into that if the conditions weren't met and what the implications would be.
This is something they've said too, discussing it is time sensitive for us to be able to get all the bylaws in place by winter. So the other thing they said is the venues themselves, if let's say it's an 8-bed shelter, have the ability to change that with the operator. There's no like 5-month handshake and that's it. If something's not working, they do change it, which we saw a couple of years ago.
Yeah, see, I get I get what he's saying here, but I'm still not really sure as to what we're going to be getting ourselves into. And I'd far rather be sure of that before we go ahead with this. And so again, I would like to put this off until our next meeting where Jordan and we can get a proper staff report understanding this better.
It will go around the table unless you're doing a motion for the deferral and we can vote on that.
Sure, I'll make that motion. When is our next meeting? I don't even know. Is it?
It's 4 weeks from now, October 1st.
First, okay, so I defer till October 1st.
Okay, so deferrals on the table. Well, we won't do comments if it gets deferred, unfortunately. So, yes.
Can I just ask, I thought I heard motion to provide a staff report.
Mhm.
Can we add that into the motion then, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, defer with the staff report. Would that be good?
You may need a second motion.
Okay, well, can I make that motion after we do this? And then I'll do the staff report one.
Just amend the motion.
Okay, so I'll just amend the motion to say defer till October 1st and have a staff report.
Okay, so before we vote on deferral, we have to vote on that amendment. So is there a seconder for the amendment? Okay, the amendment is seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, so that is as amended. Now we're going to vote on the deferral as amended. All those in favor to defer to October 1st? Opposed? Okay, so that is deferred till October 1st. And we will have a busy meeting October 1st. There are no special reports and no bylaw adoptions. We are on page 33 under new business. We have allocating the 2025 wildfire deployment revenue. That council allocate the following amounts from revenue received through 2025 wildfire deployments to the fire department 2025 operating budget. 10,000 to the community safety program, 15,000 for the repair, replacement, and enhancement of wildfire equipment, and 100,000 for the design and construction drawings related to the fire station replacement.
Alright.
That has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes. And thank you so much to the fire department here this evening for the, I believe, 18 days of deployment. 18? Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you all did there. Much appreciated from the community. We saw lots of love online for that, so thank you. Now we're on page 37B. We have the Fire Services 2025 to 2027 capital budget adjustment. That council approve an adjustment on the fire department's 5-year capital plan to advance the replacement of duty officer truck number 37, which is a 2015 model, from 2027 to 2025. That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that motion? Councillor Swift.
Just out of curiosity, how much would that truck be?
I didn't hear the question. The new truck? The
50.
budget is about 130,000 for the new truck, which is in the capital plan. I could add to that too, if you want.
Sure, if you have a comment. Go ahead.
One of the reasons for the high cost is because we obviously buy high quality trucks, hopefully, and we have to put lights and sirens and other equipment on them, bumpers, winches. And so there's a whole pile of additional stuff. So it's more than just a regular pickup truck.
Thank you, Chief Schreiner. Any other questions or comments before we vote on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We're on page 40, the flag raising and flag protocol policy. That the draft flag raising and flag protocol policy CCL-058.05 as detailed in the July 2025 report from the corporate coordinator titled Flag Raisings and Flag Protocol Policy be approved.
Move.
Sorry.
That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that policy? And that was just a minor update for the flag poles location, which flags went where. All those in favor? Opposed? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Wanted to make sure we got your vote, Councillor Blackwell. There are no notices of motion. On page 47, we're on to 3 correspondence items. We have from Lisa Dennis at CVRD, consent for bylaw number 883, Comox Valley Sports Track and Field Services conversion. And there is the letter there provided.
I'll move.
Perfect. And we're moving the resolution that is there that the town of Comox consent to the adoption of bylaw number 883. It's been moved as seconded. Any questions or comments on the sports track and field service bylaw? Okay, all those in favor with sending that letter and resolution? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. On the next, page 63, we have from Isha Metus Gibbs from Urban Matters, the winter shelter strategy.
I would move receipt.
So that has been moved and seconded for receipt. Any questions or comments on receipt of the letter? All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. My agenda is just loading. One moment. The third letter of correspondence. We have a counselor that I believe is going to remove themselves. But
I'm just going to remove myself from this discussion as my partner is helping to write this grant proposal.
Great, thank you. We will wait for you to remove yourself. So on page 66, we have a letter from Christopher Bate. I'm sorry, I'm clicking around way too much tonight.
We would move that we receive a letter and grant what else, grant what we're asking for.
Okay, so there is support to send the letter of support from Town of Comox for that letter from Christopher Bate on the New Horizons for Seniors Program grant application. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's unanimous with the 6 of us. If someone would like to grab Councillor Kerr back, please. Okay, there are no late items, so we'll do reports from council, just things that you want to pass along that you attended, that you think it's important for the public or other councillors to know, or staff. We'll go with Councillor Blacklock first, please.
Happy to report that I have in recent weeks attended the Pride flag raising ceremony, the Comox Valley Substance Use Strategy meeting, as well as the Pride in the Park event. And I quite enjoyed our BIA evening where we did the photo at the pop-up park. And kudos to the Comox Park staff. I've noticed that both the pop-up parks have become very sticky spaces, which means people stop there and use them. So it's good to see.
I don't have anything to report.
Attended a STAIR meeting as well as a Not a Place meeting. Now that he's in the room, again, thank you to Bob Bowen for all the help he gave us over the weekend. It was not unnoticed and we very much appreciate the work that you helped us with. In addition to that, we have had a director step away from the board and we are looking for new members. So reach out to the town for that.
Thanks for those updates, Councillor Kerr, and then down the table, please.
Yep, thanks. Yeah, so it was great Nautical Days debrief meeting. Thanks to the chair of the committee, Councillor Haslett, for stewarding us this season, and also to Cami for all the staff support that she provided the Nautical Days committee. And also attended the 2 Pride events, and I was happy to walk in the parade with our physician allies. And yeah, it's a great event, and thanks to all that organized.
I just wanted to share this really great event that is coming up on Monday about how to create more of these wonderful sticky community places. So it's a community conversation about placemaking. It is next Monday, September 8th from 6 to 8 PM at the Philberg Hall in Courtney. It is free and open to all. And I think the easiest way to find information is on Facebook, for better or for worse. But it's going to be a great event.
Thank you. And hopefully everyone's been enjoying summer. Upcoming event on September 13th, which I believe is a Saturday. We have VI Paddling sponsoring the big Dragon Boat Racing Festival in Marina Park. I believe it's an all-day Saturday, September 13th event. So you're welcome to come on down. There's dozens of teams that come from across the province, I believe. And we are one of the kind of co-host venue sponsors for that. So it's a growing event that the town of Comox is a part of every year. Just a couple of quick notes. I want to thank Elevate the Arts and our town of Comox administration and recreation department and all of the different departments that got involved in Music in the Park, which I believe was on the 31st. It was a lot of fun. There was hundreds of people down at the marina dancing and having a good time. So thank you to the staff that were involved in making that a bigger and better year this year. And I will leave it at that. I have a dozen small things that are more events attended. Councillor Blacklock.
Since we won't be back meeting in public, I'd also remind everyone that September 20th is the walk for Glacier View Lodge at the Comox Marina Park.
Perfect. We do
Right.
actually have a meeting next week.
Oh, we do?
We do. September.
Okay, see you next week.
But we don't discuss events, so thank you. So we have the Glacier Lodge walk is on the 20th. Do we have any questions from the public this evening? So you just come on up and you make the mic go red and you can ask any questions in regards to the agenda or comments.
It's kind of like in part to what I think Rosemary was talking about, like more multifamily going up. I just moved into Manor Place and heard there's discussion of rezoning the old Manor building for multifamily, or I don't know how many stories. I don't even know if any of it's true. I just got someone was handing out door-to-door flyers. So we thought we'd come and ask and find out. And we've actually ran around and talked to people and nobody in the neighborhood is wanting it, partly due to like safety. There's no parking already. And it's a beautiful building that we thought should be more of like a heritage building, but.
So we might have to get back to you on this. The discussions were on the rental buildings. We were looking at how high to
Okay.
go those and like in the drafted
in your-
bylaw,
it's
it's
in your
up to
plan,
6.
Like it's in the plan on the map. So
Right.
because it looks, yeah, anyway.
So I don't know that there's any, do you know, over to Director of Planning, there's an old heritage building that there's some businesses being run out of currently. It's the old Manor Place. We might have to take it offline. That's not something that's been brought in front of council as an application. So any of the discussions were generally on the Seascapes apartment buildings, the old Mariner. Yeah, sorry, Seascapes is throwing me. Mhm.
I'm sorry, Eagle Point or whatever, that they were both going to be rezoned for 4-story as well. So is that?
The OCP is in draft form, so we would have to look at it, but I think we'll bring this off. That's not a familiar
Okay.
location. We
And
talked
when
about
does that
specific
get
sites.
discussed so we can be on top of it?
I'll just talk to you after the meeting.
All right.
We can connect. Thank you. Just in a few short minutes, because that's on the spot of a building we don't know about. That's okay. Love that building. Very cool building. Okay, so with that, I will move for adjournment at 6:25 and remind all those in favor. And we do have a meeting, a strategic planning meeting, I believe, talking about stormwater management and other things next week, Wednesday, September 10th. Much to Councillor Blacklock's surprise. Thank you.